My name is Angeline, and I am a professional cat herder. I manage developers and designers and front end, back end, so they are all very temperamental and deservedly so, because they are all good in what they do. So who is a project manager or a scrum master here? And who are developers and designers and whatever? All right, I want to take a poll. What is the most common complaint of each group to the other? I want to hear it, and I want to see if my experience is yes, over there. Okay, all right. And did I see a hand over there? You guys must work in paradise. The designers and the developers never fight. All right. I have been herding engineers for a long time. And the most common complaint from the designers is that the back end don't know what we want. We want to make it beautiful. And then the back end is saying that, well, you can't design as we go along within the sprint, because we want the specs nailed down. Because oh, thank you. Yes, there's a resounding yes over there. We want the specs nailed down. So design cannot go on along with development. So I work at Xero. We make beautiful accounting software. And we're working on a product, what we call adding on payroll. And XeroCon is next week. If you want to know more, they are the people who tell you more. All right, so I have been working at XeroCon for the past 2 months. We are very new. Xero is not, has been around for several years. And US payroll, where I work, is actually a little startup within Xero. So all my developers are not more than 5 months old. I have been there for 2 months, so it's a very young and energetic group. So what my Chief Product Officer, Stuart McLeod, has decided that in order to keep designs ahead of development, he decided that, where's my slide thingy?
Oh, good. Here you go.
Okay, where do I?
Might be upside down, actually.
Here. Yeah. Oh no, what did I do? You didn't like me?
Try that. Maybe not that button.
Not this one.
Try the left one. Is that right? Oop. Okay, the other way. Yeah.
The other way?
Oop, no.
No?
Hey.
Yeah. So we have 4 decisions, as if you have worked with epics for design, is that what is the problem that we're trying to solve? And then you have a hypothesis. We know what is the problem, and it's like, why won't my dog hunt? So you have a few hypotheses, right? Maybe because he's sick of eating wheat bits that I'm feeding him, or he wants some wet food or whatever, something like that. And then when you have your hypothesis, then you will have to think of how are you going to approach the problem. So that's where it comes, the validation. You validate whether your hypothesis is right, and then you execute. And if the execution was much more to be desired, that is when you pivot your strategy. So this is how our designers work. I interviewed them, and they told me, and 2 of them are here from Melbourne, Australia. Could you stand up so that I can introduce you? Yeah, it's Dinesh and Nicholas. They are from Melbourne, and at John Collins. If you can have a drink with them, they will be more than happy to tell you how designers work at US payroll for Xero. So, oh, the other way. Excuse me. So, how do we integrate design stories with development stories? I'm a cat herder, so it's people, people, people. It's like when you want to find a store, it's location, location, location. So, one of the main things is that to manage the workflow from design to development, you need to think about how your designers and how your developers work. It's all about people interaction. JIRA is a wonderful tool, but if you don't know how your people work and how they communicate and what are the impediments in between the communication gap, people are important, even though we're talking about JIRA, how we use it. And the thing is that what we do, we decided is that we're going to have two separate boards. One, we make it into a Kanban board for the design team. So there will be epics and they keep slicing. And then there will be a review column whereby the chief product officer will review the design. And then there's the final column says that it is ready for engineering. That is when the product owners will take those stories that are approved and then making into developer stories, dev stories. So this is how we do it. And then of course, we do a Scrum board for the development stories. So we are trying to play around with it, but so far, this has worked for us. Because and we have remote people, we have distributed teams in Australia, in New Zealand, in London, and in Australia we have in Canberra, Sydney, I think, and in Melbourne. So we have people all over. And we are growing like crazy. So like I'm going to pitch like all other companies have pitched, we're hiring. If you are a .NET developer, we want you. And if you are doing front end, we love to have you too. And we're also looking for designers. So at John Collins, come grab me, and I will give you my business card, and then you can get in touch with me. Then I will give you a glowing reference saying that I met you at a JIRA user group. This person is cool because they already know JIRA. Onboarding is easier. All right. Okay, so I was preparing this to be a lightning talk. So this is my last slide, is that for me, I deal less with technology because I'm not a coder. You know, I would like to think that I am, but I'm not that good. So and I have been using JIRA for a long time, and I find that I think at this moment, how we use JIRA, using the Kanban board to sort of manage the flow of from epics to stories, and then approval for design stories, and then moving them to the development Scrum board, and then create a backlog there. So that's how we manage. And so far, our designers are not hating the developers, and the developers are not hating the designers yet. Of course, they yet is the word, yes. And the thing is that it's all about communication and how your team communicates. Like we have stand-up, and when we are doing stand-up with Melbourne and San Francisco, we are all looking at the Kanban board when we're doing the designer stand-up. And then we'll decide and we talk about it, and then then the product owners will meet, and then we'll be looking at the Scrum board for developers. So I think we have a pretty good thing going on, but I think that as we are pushing out version 1, this works for us. So as I said, keep it simple, don't overthink it, because the more columns you have, the more decisions, the workflow gets crazy. So keep it to a minimal. That is my experience, because only the people who needs to approve or review gets to do it, so that you don't have too many people making decisions and moving the stories across, and it gets a little crazy. So understand your workflow, know your people, and know how they work, how they communicate, and then keep it simple. So any question? Yes, Nick?
How long are your sprints?
Our sprints are 2 weeks, and we have front-enders who are advocating for 3 weeks. And for me, I am a little resistant to a 3-week sprint because it gets long. And a sprint is supposed that, okay, we plan and we do the stories and we go. 2 weeks, review and then demo. Yes, no, then we move on. 3 weeks, it gets a little long because the momentum kind of sort of, but they have reasons because they say that, well, there's not enough time for us to work and this and that. So the way that I have sort of come up with is that we slice the stories appropriately. Like, it's not too big that you couldn't finish, and it's just right that you can finish it in a sprint. Yes?
So your design stories, are the design stories around the same size? I mean, is there a consistent cycle time?
The design stories, normally they are 2 sprints ahead, and they start much earlier. And I think that we are kind of proud of ourselves because our design is pretty much ahead of the development team. And then, of course, there will be, as we are trying to manage this new relationship, and it's right now the one of the impediments we have is that we have engineers do not like change. They hate it, and they are not prepared for change. And that's why they always complain that the specs change and this and that. But if you are a product owner, you know that sometimes that is necessary, right? How many times has Steve Jobs changed his mind? We don't know. And anyway, yes, yeah. The thing is that dealing with change is a people thing. You can have it on JIRA that you're dealing with change and this and that, but if you have the tool, you have to use it, because if you don't use it, then, and I'm very excited about the new Confluence. I have been using Confluence for my retrospective notes and everything, and I'm like, oh, Confluence Blueprint. Does that mean that I don't have to have like in-person retrospective anymore? Wow, think about that. So, and then, any more questions? Yes?
With your sprints, what kind of deployment process do you have? Is it continuous delivery? Is it do you deploy per sprint?
Right now, because we are building a new product, so we have releases. Yeah, yeah, we have releases. And then the launch in November. Yes?
So why Kanban for the design and Scrum for the development and Scrum for both, or why Kanban for design?
Well, Kanban for design because Kanban is managing flows like tickets. These are the things that we need to do. So we are managing flows, and you manage your priorities better there. But for Scrum, if you schedule it into the sprint, then you have to finish it, right, in 2 weeks. But for Kanban, you can say that, okay, the cycle time, sometimes you have to send the ticket back to the left because something major have changed, priorities have changed. So that's why we have a Kanban board for design. Okay. Any more questions? Yes?
Another kind of people question.
So people question? Oh, that's my favorite because...
You have your developers, you have designers, and I come from a really small company, so the developers feel like they have input on the designers and vice versa.
They're cats and dogs, but they love each other.
Yeah,
we know that. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit towards, because you've really separated, it sounds like you've really separated the process where, all of a sudden these stories just show up to the developers and they're like, well, that's silly. Why would you do it that way? How does feedback get back and forth? How do you how is that approach?
I encourage questions because no one is absolute and no one version, because we're all working in our tiny little world. Because if I'm a developer, I would think in codes, in lines of codes. But when you are a designer, what is functional? What is the experience? But for a back-end person, is the logic that counts, not where the button is and how does it make sense and this and that. So well, I'm not a neurologist, but I would think, for lack of a better metaphor, they both think from different sides of the brain, one left, one right. So in order to meet, we do backlog grooming. So when the design stories get moved into the developer's sprint backlog, then the product owner and the designer and the developers, because the product owner is like a conduit. With the designers, they talk to the designers how they want it, and the business rules and everything, and then they talk to the developers. I want to see such and such a behavior, and the acceptance criteria is that it must do X, Y, and Z, etc. So a lot of people management whereby you have to get people to talk, and then of course it all has to be documented, right? So JIRA and Confluence, yeah, we use that, yeah. My boss just loves JIRA. He loves JIRA. I was sitting here, I'm like, wow. I was telling Nick, because Nick knows my boss, and he said that, you know what, he will really like these new features. So any more questions? All right, so you guys are on your way to John Collins then. Catch up with me, and I have business cards, and if you want to ask me any more questions, I will be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you.